Hi everyone. Today we'll be going over Japanese war crimes that were committed in World War II. This does not cover all of them, just some that stood out to me for either their importance or the depravity of the actions that occurred. First, we'll start off with the Maru incident. It happened September 7th, 1944. Maru was also called the Hell Ship. It was a transport ship carrying about 750 POWs to Manila. It ended up being sunk by an American submarine, pictured here. Um, the captain was informed of the submarine in the area, and instead of doing anything to evasive maneuvers, he decided to just start executing all the prisoners aboard. Um, some survivors were able to make it out of the ship before it sank, um, but most of those surviving prisoners were actually executed by a Japanese rescue mission. 668 of the POWs died, and 82 were able to escape. There's a commemoration to the Shinamaru. Next, we'll go to the Sandakan Death March / POW camp. Here, the POWs were forced to march basically until they died. There's a lot of forced slave labor. People were beaten, starved, didn't receive any medical attention on the POW camp. During the march, 2,345 POWs ended up dying due to either dehydration, disease, exhaustion, you name it. Some people decided, we're going to lag behind, and those that started lagging behind were executed. Here's a picture of the conditions some people were kept in. You can see how very malnourished they are. Next, move on to Jesselton Revolt, October of 1943. It was an uprising of the indigenous Suluk and Chinese. In the revolt, 50 to 90 Japanese soldiers were killed, and as retaliation, the Japanese decided to start a genocide of the Suluk. Many were bayoneted, beheaded. Estimated 3,000 to 4,000 of the Suluk were killed. The rebels were just armed with spears and swords, and Japanese were obviously much better equipped, and Japanese were trying to kill off the entire male population. And then we'll go to the Bataan Death March in 1942. Basically consisted of mostly Philippine soldiers and American POWs. It was a 66-mile march just to basically kill them. Same as with the Sandakan Death March. Most died of exhaustion, heat, dysentery, starvation, dehydration. Unfortunately, a lot were used as practice, so Japanese officers could practice their katana skills, and the laggers in this one were not only shot, but also ran over with trucks. You can see a picture here of a Japanese soldier standing watch over the POWs. Next we'll go to the Sukching massacre. After the fall of the city to Japanese rule, Japanese basically started a purge of Chinese people. It was mostly led by the Japanese secret police, and they estimate that 30 to 100,000 dead. Let's get into the Shangzhou massacre from March 9th to March 12th, 1943. Basically a 4-day rape campaign that led to almost 30,000 dead in only 4 days. There's mass beheading. It was led by Shunroku Hata, and we'll talk more about him later because he unfortunately was involved in more than one of these events. The Manila Massacre from February to March 1945. Basically, American and Philippine forces were taking back the city, and as the Japanese were pushed back, it led to mutilations, rapes, massacres in schools, hospitals, convents. A lot of the raped women were between 12 and 14 years old. They turned a local hotel into a, quote, rape center as the Japanese were getting pushed out of the city. The city was left in ruins, and they estimate 100,000 civilians dead. Next we get into the Shashong Yangtze campaign. This was, you can see the two territories of China shown there. This is basically, the Americans were constructing Air Force bases in China to make hitting Japanese mainland easier. 64 airmen ended up having to crash land due to running out of fuel because they were trying to avoid Japanese forces. 8 were captured and executed immediately. The others were hidden by Chinese civilians. And the Japanese, in search of these 56 airmen, just started pillaging, burning entire villages as they raped and killed civilians, just trying to find 56 American airmen. This was another one. It ended up resulting in about 250,000 dead Chinese civilians. This was another one led by Shumiku Hata. I found out after he served only 6 years in prison for his war crimes before he was let out on good behavior, and ended up becoming a respected public figure. So it kind of seems like everyone kind of forgot what he was doing during the war. Lastly, we'll get to the rape of Nanjing. This has also been called the Forgotten Holocaust. It occurred in the 6 weeks following the capture of the capital city. The Japanese looted almost every building, mass killing, mass rape, a lot of civilians buried in mass unmarked graves, a lot just left to rot in the sun. About estimate 20 to 80,000 women were brutally raped as Japanese soldiers went door to door, dragging out women and children and raping them. Soldiers were told by the officers to either give them money or just to discreetly kill them after finishing. Pregnant women were cut open, babies ripped out, and women were sodomized with bamboo and bayonets until they died. They estimated 300,000 dead within a matter of weeks. You can see in some pictures here, a young man about to be beheaded, a woman tied to a post while a man forcibly kisses her. One of the worst things are these two guys right here. Japan actually ran a magazine story about these two and how they were having a race to see who could kill the first one to kill 100 unarmed defensive civilians using only a sword. This kind of shows you how far the reach went in Japan as far as supporting what the soldiers were doing. Some other pictures that are tough to look at. A lot of dead bodies just stacked up, piled amongst each other. In the bottom left, you can see Japanese soldiers carrying around carts of all the stuff that they had looted from houses. Again, you can see a young boy there about to be beheaded by a guy with a smile on his face. That's all I got for you today. Sorry some of the pictures are tough to look at, but it should be talked about more so we can stop this stuff from happening in the future.